because I do 1,300 crunches and sit-ups 4 times a week.
What's a dose? Can you translate for us?
Winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Ernie Els.
Welcome back to the Go Track, everyone, the podcast about golf and golf adjacent stuff, mostly from Africa. Please forgive us for not getting content out sooner. As like all of you, I'm sure you've been trying to mount the horse that is 2025, and I hope it is a good one for you. Mine feels like an absolute thoroughbred polo pony at this stage, not to be confused with the polo cross pony JDV. Guys, today's a great episode. We've been trying to book Gary Player for quite a while, and still haven't managed to book him. So we thought the next best thing was why not get JDV and his butt Sean, aka STV, to talk amongst themselves about their Matchplay win at Cotswold Downs, their knockout Matchplay win from 2024. Actually, quite a fun look at kind of these club competitions, and I think the fact that they're playing together as brothers, as a team, gives some great insights into kind of the highs and lows of going through a competition like that, and also some of, I suppose, club politics and opinions and that sort of thing. So, hope you enjoy it, guys. Once again, please just help us out by sharing the Go Track with your friends and family and your golf schools and your golf groups. And also just subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We've also started our podcast on YouTube as well. So you would have seen one of our episodes at the end of 2024. We've got some additional content in there with like video clips and that from some of the courses when we spoke about our best 18 holes. So we're going to start trying to build in a bit more video content. There won't be any video content for this episode, but look out for more of that on YouTube as well. Over to you, JDV.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Go Track, the podcast about golf and golf-adjacent things. We've got a pretty self-indulgent pod here today. We'll try and keep it short and sweet. Man, we've spoken a lot about, or I've certainly spoken a lot about on the podcast. My brother, Sean de Villiers, STV, how are you today, sir?
How's it, JDV, and to the listeners, and T-Dog, pity you're not here, but how's it to you on your holiday, wherever you are? Good to be on the track with you guys. Yeah,
so T's in Palfred in the Eastern Cape, so he's jawling it up with all of the Eastern Cape Lower Albany farmers.
Okay, never even heard of the place.
It's basically Grahamstown, where I went to varsity. But so today what we are going to chat about, and why I say it's a bit of a self-indulgent one, is we're talking about our knockout match play at Cotswold, which STV and I managed to win. But I think what we're going to try and do is not be so heavy on like the hole by hole, play by play, like all of the shots that we did. But I think what I want to talk about more is the format, some of the highs and lows, and I think talking more generally about the beauty of competitive golf, where it's like low stakes but highly competitive, because I do think for an amateur golfer it's like the opportunity that we get. I mean, obviously it's nowhere near the pressure that the pros feel, but it is a small taste of what it's like in those cauldron moments where you have to hit the shot, where you're obviously a bit nervous, so low stakes, and yet we still feel the pressure. So Sean, I don't know if you want to give maybe just your opening remarks. This is the third year that we played it together at Cotswold. Managed to, spoiler alert, get the W. What are your sort of opening thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think, just in terms of the format, comparing it to club champs, JDV, how do you find it? Do you find it less pressure but more fun? Like for me, it's the team sport, the betterball format is such a cool format, especially for us as brothers. I think as having the de Villiers brothers as kind of a target on our back makes it quite fun for us. We've got a lot to live up to. And yeah, I certainly love the team format.
Look, I think it's a good point. Obviously the club champs is one of the major comps. I'd like to think the Betterball Knockout is another major comp at the club. And I think generally at clubs in general, their Betterball Knockout formats, and I think most clubs have a Betterball Knockout format. I know VCC has the Farron Cup format, which is the same thing. But I think just in general, I love match play because you can blow out one hole and it's not the end of it. You make it 10 and you just lost one hole. Well, hopefully, unless you're playing someone really shit and then they make it 11, you can still win it. I think for me, it sort of frees you up to play the shots when you need to play them. I find in the sort of individual individual medal format, you need to play a shot, but you also know if you don't pull it off, you're staring down the barrel of you've wasted 2 days of golf because you make a big number. But I think maybe just quickly, the way that Cotswold does the Betterball format is they just do a draw, so anyone can enter, and they've got basically a bracket system. A lot of the first round comprises of bars. It's a bit opaque in terms of how they determine who gets the bars and who doesn't. I mean, let's get the English right there. I think, Sean, we've never had a bar in the first round. So this is our third year playing together, and I would say that we've probably learned quite a lot in those 3 years. I think a lot about the course, but a lot about us mentally and emotionally as well.
No, 100%. And there's quite a few teams. Just looking at the draw, there's 60 slots, of which there's about 8 bars in the first round. So 52 teams playing. So it's a good effort, from the boys to come out and play, and the girls that played as well.
So I think starting off, Sean, I mean, what are your thoughts on that format where everyone who wants to play can play it? Let's just compare it with the Farron Cup at VCC, which what they do is that everyone plays one Saturday, and that's the qualifier. So essentially, it's a normal Betterball Stableford competition. Whoever's got the most points at the end of that is seeded 1 all the way down, but only 16 teams qualify for Farron Cup, and then 16 plays 1, 15 plays 2. So you have to qualify for the knockouts, whereas Cotswold's a bit different. Everyone who wants to play puts their names down and plays.
And how many rounds is the Farron Cup?
So 16, so that's your round of 16, so that would be 4. Is that right?
4 rounds, yeah. So 4 rounds versus 6 rounds. So, look, I think maybe with a smaller field with Vic, they needed... maybe they should be opening it up and let everybody enter to get a bigger field, which is better for them. But no, I think it's important to open the field for everybody to enter. And I think it's important for the guys that do enter to make sure that they're punctual, they get to their tee times on time.
Yeah, so I think we'll get into maybe some of the tee times controversy. But yeah, what I maybe will say about that is that with the qualifying, if you're not available on that weekend, you can't qualify. So, as much as you want to play the knockout, you might be away one weekend or have booked yourself away for that one weekend, and all of a sudden, potentially, well, I say no faults of your own, but it's probably wholly your own fault, is that you don't get to play. So look, I like the format that everyone who wants to play can play. I would like to pick Brian's brain about who gets the bars in the first round. I would hope that the guys that finish sort of top the last year get the bars in the next round. And maybe just to do a quick shout out, we did have a bar, and I was pushing hard for Joshy and Josh Temlin and Matt, who had recently joined Cotswold. I was like, no, look, I know the sign-up period is ended, but, please let them play or whatever. It'll be good chaos. So anyway, that came back to bite me because we went from getting a bar in our first round to having to play them in our first round.
Yeah, I think Brian definitely snuck that one in there.
And look, to be honest, I have no issue with that. I think, similar to... your road into like a World Cup in rugby. If you want to win, you've got to win the matches. You can't be bleak that you don't get a bye in the first round. I mean, if you want to win, you've got to play and you've got to win those matches.
Yep.
So let's quickly talk about our first one, and we're not going to dwell on it. I think. So Joshy and Matt, we obviously play a hell of a lot of golf. They sort of regular players that we play with. Matt's off about a 10 or 11. He was hobbling around. He had a pretty bad Achilles injury, and Joshy overswings more than John Daly. I was quietly confident going in, and I think they I thought Matt would carry the team and that Josh would be struggling, and it was the opposite. I think Josh played out of his boots. I know obviously Matt played well, but I think that injury of Matt's certainly didn't help him. What are your thoughts? Do you remember much about that without doing a play-by-play? I mean, that first round that we had?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, like you said, we know Matt and Josh very, very well. For me, Josh is such a danger man. He can shoot 90, 95, maybe even 100, and then come out and shoot a 75. That's Josh. He is an absolute beast with a putter from 6 feet. The man doesn't miss a single putt. So I was always a little bit nervous with Joshy just coming out of the blocks, and especially in the last 5 holes when he normally goes like 2 or 3 under. But yeah, I think we held them quite well. They dovetailed very, very well, if I recall correctly, from that round. So we got a 2-1. It was a close-ish game, but just stoked to get through the first round without getting kicked out.
Yeah, look, I could have had huge egg on my face because, I mean, we were chatting about the draw on the group. We got a sort of Cotswold group, and I was like, yeah, you know, our second round is going to be this, and then we got to beat them, these Oaks, in the third round. And Josh and Matt were like, hang on, Oaks, you haven't even beaten us in the first round yet. But no, it was a thoroughly enjoyable round. Again, I mean, maybe just to mention the bogey team that we had on the other side of the draw, because this will be a theme going through, was Fuad, who's been on the podcast before, and John Mark. John Mark, I think, is about a 8 or a 9 handicap, and Fuad is like 28. And you and I played them in 9 holes just to see how we'd fare. And I was like, yeah, we can't wait to like meet you, Oaks. Hopefully, like, it'll be the dream final. 9 holes, you and I played solid and like lost 3 and 2 in 9 holes. And I think we both realized that you know, maybe it's better if they get knocked out on the other side of the draw. Yeah,
100%. I honestly feel a little bit bad about almost wishing that somebody would knock them out, but that was the case. Absolutely demolished us in that 9-hole match play.
And we didn't play badly.
I mean, JM, he is so solid as an anchor for that side, and Fuad he probably gets 4 pointers in a 9. Yes, he has his rings, which is obviously why he's on the handicap he is, but as a team, they're really deadly.
Well, let's quickly, while we're on that point, because I think it goes into another point I wanted to discuss, is, you know, you and I picked each other, obviously brothers, we play a lot of golf together. We have got to a stage in our handicaps before where we pretty much playing off like 1-shot difference. I think I was going out and you were coming in, and I ended up, I think I was on a 12 and you were on a 13, and I was on 11, you were on a 12, and it's sort of you know, the finger of God photo. They like almost touch each other, and then we sort of gone and we went in different directions again. So I think when we playing now, I was playing off, probably for most of the time, I was playing off a 10. Sean, you had played some of the shittest golf of your life coming into it, so your handicap was it's moist.
The softest it's been for.
Well, you had a soft cap for a long time.
I had a soft cap for almost 2 years. It was tough, but I mean, in those matches, I was playing off a 15, 16 handicap. It was tasty.
So what do you think in terms of who has got the advantage in these sorts of knockout competitions, your sort of club knockout competitions? Who are you looking to pair? Because I mean, we did come up against a lot of low handicappers together. We didn't come up against too many, you know, like sometimes you get 2 bullies playing off, like both of them playing off like 24. I think your odds there is like, you know, just stay in the hole. They're going to shoot a, you know, bogey for a 5-pointer, and you got to just like hang in there and know that they're going to ring out one of those holes. But we didn't really have any of those matches. I know previously we always play is it Dean and Mareka in that first round, who are both quite high handicappers, and I know have knocked out some very good teams just because they got so many shots. And that's not saying they're not a good team, but I'm just saying, like, do you think you need to be picking a high and a low handicapper together for this? Looking at how many sort of low handicap pairings did get through quite deep.
Yeah, look, I think the higher handicaps definitely have an advantage in this format, just because you've got a kind of a 4-pointer or 3-pointer around every second hole that you can get, and you're going to ring a couple. But if you paired with a partner that's a single-digit handicap like you, JDV, I think that's where we make a good team. I wouldn't say I'm a very, very high handicapper. I am a high handicapper playing off around about maybe between a 13 and a 16 throughout the year. but playing with somebody like you that's off a 8, I think you were playing off some of those matches, you're just solidly picking up a 2 or 3 pointer on every hole, and takes a lot of pressure off the higher handicapper. And then, if you can get those 3 or 4 pointers, then you're pretty much winning those holes and halving the other one. So I think if you have a consistent high handicapper, you're definitely on the front foot. I'm sure Brennan and Pat will be testament to that. I mean, pretty tough when the high handicapper has a solid round.
Well, we'll get to that one because that was looking. We were pretty embarrassed at one stage. We were playing so well, but I think that's a fair point. You need a pair that's going to make points on every hole. What is absolute sacrilege in these things is if both of you ring out and the guys can win it with a 1-pointer. I think of all the matches we played, there was only really, I think, 1 or 2 holes where a 1-pointer halved it. I'm just thinking about that match with D-Mac and Anu where the stroke 18 where we all 3 putted essentially for 4-1. But my other point is what Cotswold does, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, is they don't make the lowest handicap go down to a scratch. And then so normally what you would do in these match play things is that the lowest handicapper goes down to scratch, and say I'm an 8, if I'm the lowest, then everyone deducts 8 off their handicap. So what that essentially does is it gives you your strokes on the hardest holes. Whereas if you just play it off the card, you're actually getting a lot of your strokes on the easiest holes. So what do you think, and do you think it's a good thing, or would you change anything about it? Do you think it doesn't actually make a difference in the greater scheme?
Personally, probably not a huge amount of difference, Jacques. That's just my opinion. But I don't think I know enough about golf to comment or necessarily have an opinion on that one. But no, for me, I don't think it makes a huge difference at the end of the day.
I mean, the difference between you getting your stroke on the par 5 13th, for example, versus getting it on 17, I think it makes quite a big difference. You can.
It's in our favour, yeah.
Yes,
okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that I think
it's favouring the high handicappers.
Correct,
yes.
because I think that the high handicappers are likely to make their points on those sort of birthday holes, and blow out on the low strokes.
Yeah, that's true.
So I do think it favours us.
Has it always been that format, or was it just this year?
I'm not sure. I feel like the first time we played 3 years ago, we did go down to scratch, and you didn't take those points there. But yeah, so that's an interesting little wrinkle. I'm just trying to think I don't know, Farron Cup, I don't think you do also. I think in Farron Cup you also just play off the card. Look, it makes scoring a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's quickly just go on to the second match. We got through 3 and... Was it 3 and... No, we got 3 and 1.
2 and 1.
2 and 1, yes.
2 and 1 versus Josh and Matt, and then on to D-Mac and Anu.
So D-Mac is a scratch handicap. He's won a couple of the club champs at Cotswold. Anu's a 6 handicap. Probably hits his 4 iron, probably his 5 iron further than I can hit my driver.
Yep. But I think Anu was also a scratch handicap at one stage as well, eh?
But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. So if you're going to take a 5 iron and hit it driver length, make sure you're hitting it straight. That was a bloody tough match. I felt like that was one where, other than the one I mentioned where there was a 1-pointer, if you were making a 1-pointer or 2-pointer even, you were probably going to lose it. I mean, 3-pointers were essentially winning holes there. Nothing better than 2-pointer was halving it. There were no real free holes in that match, and needless to say, that went down. That went down to the first playoff hole.
Yeah.
Do you want to just take us through that, Shorto?
Yeah, look, I think if I recall from that match, the one thing we said after the match, or even going into the first playoff hole, was that if we won or lost, we would be happy to have lost to them because we didn't actually play badly. We've had a couple of matches where mostly me played really bad, and we would have been upset to go out. But
well, hang on, we're going to get onto that one on the next match.
But generally speaking, we played pretty well in that match. I mean, if I look at the card on the front 9, I shot 39, JDV 43. Combined, we shot 21 points. DMAC 35, Arnu 42. They shot 19 points. We were all square on the front nine. So very close. We dovetailed really well. Actually, everybody dovetailed pretty well. Then on the back nine, we always said in our own internal strategy, we never wanted to go into 17 and 18, which is effectively stroke
1 and 3.
Stroke 1 and 3. We didn't want it to go into those like one up or all square, because we didn't really back ourselves on those 2 holes to win.
Showing our hand a bit for next year or this year.
And on this one, we actually went into it like that. We went into 17 one up, and just looking at it, we halved the stroke 1. JDV, you got a par on that one. Arnie parred that as well. That was the one where I had basically a putt on the same line as Arnu from about maybe about 10 foot, and Arnu was at about 6 foot.
I think just to interject here, one of the agenda or sort of talking points I had is most controversial moments. I think this probably is up there with one of the most controversial moments. So just to set the scene, so I had about a 5-footer which I sank. No, I didn't. I hadn't sunk mine yet. No. So Arnu had like a 6-7 footer, and Sean had an 8 footer on the exact same line. I think he had to ask Arnu to move his mark. I don't know if he did ask him to move his marker. Yeah. And you couldn't rake we didn't want to be those oaks to be like rake it and take a ring. Yeah. So just you can take it from there. Yeah.
So basically, had to go up and putt, and I could already see the look on Jacques' face, like, oh, now I'm going to give him a perfect read now and everything. So anyway, I was already 2 steps ahead of Jacques on this one. So thought, no, I'm going to go up and I'm basically going to pump this not say as hard as I can, but it's going to be a really positive putt, which I did. I absolutely slotted it. Even if it was a foot to the left, I had a dead center of the cup, and I pumped it straight into the hole.
It was one of those ones that hit the back of the hole, jumped up about a foot and then fell back into the hole.
Yeah, so needless to say, I got it in, but we at the end of the day, JDV still got the par for the half.
Arnie made a really good putt. Firstly, he looked at you and was like, okay, well, that didn't tell me anything. Yeah. He's not going to hit his putt that hard. I think if he had hit his putt that hard, we could have won the match there and then, because we were 2 up, with 2 to play.
No, we were 1 up.
We were 1 up. Okay, so
we were 1 up. We were 1 up going into 17, and then we halved 17. So you and Arnie halved 17. We went into 18, still 1 up. And I think 18, which is why it's a great finishing hole, and I do truly think 18 is good for the low handicappers. For a low handicapper, I think the guys find it quite an easy hole. For a higher handicap, it's an impossible hole.
On that point, so it's stroke 3. So again, DMAC wouldn't have stroked it, but if you're a 3 handicap and that's your birthday hole, I mean, it's pretty straightforward if you're a 3 handicapper to make a par.
Yeah.
And it's not that straightforward for even, like me as like a sort of a 9 handicapper to make a par on that hole. So I agree with you. I mean, maybe that is one where sort of playing it off the card doesn't benefit the sort of the high handicappers. But hopefully you haven't got there. That was our plan, was that we can't get into 17 or 18 down because then it's going to be dire.
So we both shot double bogeys on that hole, and both DMAC and Arnie
shout out to BMT for the De Villiers brothers.
Yeah, so you're bad BMT. You can imagine the mental struggles that were going on that hole. I think you were in the bunker on the right.
Yes.
And I think I slotted one into the quagmire.
Okay, so anyway, going on to the 19th, the first playoff hole, you already mentioned it. We were sort of in the cart, sort of going to that first playoff hole, and sort of said, well, come what may, I feel like we've played decent golf. Like if we lose it on the first playoff hole, we haven't thrown this one away. So Shauno, you essentially what had happened is DMAC had a chip in for the birdie, which would have given him a 4-4-3, if that's right. And Sean, you had a 2-putt. You were on the green for 2 hours, pretty much out of it. I
think that this was a good example of strategy. We spoke a lot about each hole, about strategy, and I think that one we played very well in terms of strategy.
Yes.
I had quite a high. I would say for me it was a high risk shot. I was on the left by the tree. Those Cotswold on the first. I particularly hate that tree on the par 5. And I was in the rough left of the tree, and JDV had quite a long shot. You were up on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And I said to you, I can't remember.
No, you went first, and you said, let me go first, and then you can see what you need to do after that. Correct. So if you were like, if I'm on the green, then, you can have a crack with the long iron at the green as well.
Yeah.
But if this is also going to become a bit of a theme, is Sean being closer but making me but wanting to go first. But yeah, you hit it on the green. I think I pumped mine into the bush, but it wasn't the end of the world. I mean, you essentially had a two putt for the win. You did leave yourself, it was a top right flag, you left yourself like a 6 foot seriously left to right putt, which you hit quite firm and curled into the hole. And I think that was all she wrote. Your 5 for 3 beat D-Max 5 for 2 on that hole. Yeah. So yeah, through to 19th hole win, through to the next round. Playing Red and Laurie, who's the captain of the morning school Birchells.
No, the next was Clive and Sinet.
Sorry, mea culpa there. So Clive and Sinet, they obviously a couple married to each other. Sinet super solid, played off the Reds. Played off about a 12, I think, and Clive also, I think, played off about a 12 as well. Clive played off the same as me. I was pretty much off the shoulder.
Off the shoulder. I'm sure I was off the shoulder.
Clive was a 10. Yeah. Clive was a 10 because remember you won that the stroke 10. I was a 9. That was one I thought was one of my, like, when I was thinking about controversial moments, was Sinet seriously was battling with her putter. She seemed like she was a really, really solid putter, but just that day, she couldn't get the short
she
putts to
battled
drop.
with the putter that day.
And being, the gentleman that we are, we made her putt everything out.
For anyone listening, you must always make red putt out as well. It's good mental games.
But yeah, look, and I also, like, again, so this was one where we were... let's just get to the meat of this game, which was on 18. We were all square. No, actually, let's get to the meat first. Sean, the first 6 holes, I don't think you got a single shot airborne.
I was in a very... And those who've played with the De Villiers brothers, or particularly myself or my old man, we can go into some seriously dark places in our brains. Like, it's a genetic thing. Unfortunately, it can't be avoided. Jacques has learned how to get me out of those moments, which is generally just basically just play as hard as you can just to keep us in the match. But 100%, I literally couldn't get my ball airborne. I couldn't get it off the ground.
It was intense. I mean, I think, okay, so after 9 holes, we were 4 down, if I remember that was right. And I think
we were square 1 down, 2 down, 3 down. We went 3 down after 5.
Yeah.
And then
you birdied one of the holes when it was like your eureka moment.
Yeah, but then it was the stroke 14. Jacques was like, right, Sean, you really have to now come to the party. We 3 down. It's your stroke hole, stroke 14, the 6th hole. And yeah, again, I pawned it, and luckily JDB came to the party there. Actually, you got a par for what am I looking at the right hole? Yeah, 4 for 2, and you won that one actually.
Yeah, that was a lucky one.
And I think this was a par 3 after that where I got a birdie and won the hole. That was the first time I contributed in the match, and probably sparked a little bit of
so big comeback. I mean, you really came to the party then on the back 9. I think I don't know if subconsciously you were feeling bad. But yeah, essentially what happened then was we took it down to the 18th. It was all square going down 18.
Yeah, so again we came up. We went into the halfway house 1 down. So we actually came back already. I mean, from where we were, 1 down, and then we came on fire. But actually, Clive and Sinet dovetailed well. I was just looking at the scorecard. I got a 3-pointer on 10. We halved that. Clive got a 3-pointer. I got a 2-pointer on 11. We halved that.
Yeah.
On 12, I got a 3-pointer. We won. Then I got another 3-pointer. We halved, and I got another 3-pointer.
Yeah. So just bearing in mind, Sean is like rattling off these 3-pointers. So just to quickly, was it all square going down 18?
It was. We were all square on 17, Jacques, and we halved it. Yeah, we went all square into 18.
So what happened there was, Shame, I think Sinet was out. She was out of the hole on 18, so it was Sean and I essentially versus Clive. They went first, if I recall. Clive pretty much smoked a drive. That essentially, I was like, normally I was taking a hybrid because I hate that drive on that hole. I always managed to hook it into the water or push it right, like onto that bank. Sean, you smoked a drive, and I remember standing there being like, right, Clive smoked a drive, Sean smoked a drive. There's no point in me also not taking driver here, and I managed to also smoke my drive. So all 3 of us essentially had shots at the green, and this is, I think, another one where our strategy came into play, where you and me sat there and discussed it for a long while. Clive hit first. I think he was behind both of us, hit it into the right bunker. And then it was a case of, well, do we both lay up and sort of both get on the green and both sort of have a shot at the birdie? Does one of us do it? Do both of us go for it? And Sean, I think you made a great call there. You said, look, you're going to lay up and I must have a crack at it. Because if you lay up, you've pretty much guaranteed us the par, I would hope. I mean, you're hitting it well. You're getting it airborne by that stage. And if I get it on the green, I remember your words saying, if you get it on the green, we've won the match.
Yeah.
So you laid up, a good layup, left yourself about a 100-meter shot. I had a hybrid that was, I would say, a foot from getting on the green and then bounced, sort of landed on that lip of the bunker, bounced right into the bunker. And I think, not to belabor the point there, I think that was pretty much the end of it. I think both Clive and I put 2 in the bunker. Sean, you hit the middle of the green and it was just a solid 2-putt for the par.
Yeah.
And that was all she wrote.
It up. Yeah.
All right, take us to the next one. So we are now.
So now we're playing.
Is this the round of 16 now?
This is Laurie. Now we're in the quarterfinal. That was the round of 16.
Just hang on before we carry on here. This beer that you've given me, is this the one that's brewed by the monks?
Yeah. So this is what you're drinking now. Is the best beer in the world. It's a Trappist beer called West Fletcher number 12. And those listeners, if you want to Google it. You actually can't buy it. You need to go to the abbey in Belgium, in southern Belgium, near the French border, and wait in a queue at the abbey to get one of these beers. And if you try online, there's a black market. You can probably try and buy one. I think they go for about 600 rand a beer, somewhere around there. But go to the abbey in Belgium, get yourself a West Fletcher number 12 if you can get one, and enjoy it. It's really different. 11% alcohol content. It's a brown beer. It's really, really amazing.
And while this sounds like an ad read, I can tell you we are not sponsored by these beers. That is absolutely delicious, Sean.
No, you have that one, JD. I've got my own one.
All right, so I get a full 600 rand beer to myself. Okay, De Villiers, run us through the next one. So this one, I just wanted to say...
So that was the round... that was the Clive and Sinet was the round of 16, and then on to the quarterfinals with...
So for me, this was also another pick for controversial moment. So we couldn't make our dates work. So the way that it works is you've got a month to play the next round, and you've got to arrange with the guys to say, look, when can you both play? And if you can't... Sorry, there's Sean just cracking another beer for those of you who can hear it. If you can't arrange it, then you do a coin flip. Sean, just before we carry on, what are your thoughts on that way of finalizing it? Because it did make a difference. I mean, the guys that we ended up playing in the final had won, I think, or had got one walkover.
They got through on a coin flip.
But they got a walkover and they won a coin flip.
I mean, I would play with a broken leg if I had to before losing on a coin flip. To be honest, like with a tournament like this, I mean, you played over 6 months. We start in June. We play our last match in the end of November. To play for 5 months and then go out on a coin flip would be pretty swag. So for me, like
I haven't heard the word swag in ages.
So I'm not a big fan of the coin flip. I think guys must make a plan and play. I mean. It's not that difficult, in my opinion, to try and... You've got a month to get one game in. I think, it's not that difficult to find a date that everybody can play.
Well, hold my monk beer for this one, because there's pretty shitty weather around the time that we decided to play. And anyway, we had set our match against what Sean says, you find a date and you play. So, I mean, we actually ended up playing on like a Monday afternoon. And let's just say like a proper cold front had hit Natal. Pumping wind, like pumping rain.
Well, it was possibly the worst weather day of the whole year. It
was like 6 or 7 degrees. I mean, I went and bought a beanie at the pro shop. I took my cap off and bought a beanie. I've still got it. I only worn it once on the golf course.
And I think Laurie and Red, I think they even asked us on the day. The weather was so bad. They were like, "Listen, guys, like, are we honestly really playing today?"
No. Well, I got a message the night before saying the weather looks really bad. Like, can we not postpone this? I said, look, sorry, Sean's got a lot of work, and like he's like actually postponed his Joburg trip to play this. So, unless there's lightning and we can't play or the course is flooded, we're in. Which again, we're all playing in the same conditions. And I think, you've got to take the elements as they come. And I love the fact that, honestly, that was a grind, that round.
Yeah.
And for me, it was lekker. This was also the round that we all got there at about 11:30. I think our tea time was 12:30, and they said, look, are you happy to golf a bit earlier? Obviously, there was not a soul on the golf course, so we were the only guys that were playing. I said, absolutely. Sean's right here. He sent me a message, just left home. Unbeknownst to me, Sean was sitting at Fig Tree, which is the driving range next door, doing his warm-up there. So I said to them, look, Sean said he'll be at 12, so we'll see you on the box. Anyway, they went to, instead of being in the clubhouse in the nice warm fire, the guys went and waited at the tee box at 12 o'clock, only for Sean to rock up at 12:30 on the dot to begin the round. So call it gamesmanship, call it what you want, Sean. You let those like sit and suffer in like 5 degrees, windy, rainy on the tee box while they waited for us.
Yeah, let's just say when we got to the tee box, when I got to the tee box, Jacques was already there, and no one was looking very happy.
But it was
in fact, the guys were. I remember Laurie even mentioning, saying like, "Listen, Oaks, like he might even like just concede halfway through the round based on the weather."
No, he said he was genuinely like gonna say like let's just call it a day. Let's do the coin flip. Look, I think we were properly invested at that stage. We had won 3 matches.
And I mean, we played in such bad weather in the past. I mean, we quite have.
Yeah, put your wet weather gear on, get your gloves on, and embrace it. So, I mean, 100%. Honestly, I think that's I've got no issue as long as it's playable. Let's play. It's just a different challenge. Bloody tight game though, Shauna.
It was a very tight game. Looking at the scorecards again, JDB pretty much anchored the front 9 as well as the back 9. We dovetailed pretty well on the back 9, but we pretty much were ahead most of the match. One up from the first hole and pretty much stayed that way. We got all square on the 7th, but went straight up again. But it's really on the 10th there we started putting a bit of pressure on, and we went 2 up, 3 up to a 3 up by the 13th, which we got a bit ahead of ourselves.
No. So let me just go to that, because I remember, so firstly, Red also was nowhere for a while. I remember Laurie on the 10th when Red, I think, hit it into the sloot there on the 10th, and Laurie was like, oh my goodness. It's like, I think he had been playing some very, very good golf up until then. We were 3 up, and I remember we were now onto your stroke hole, Sean, the 13th, which, shout out to one of my questions, which hole do you think we played the worst? I think the 13th is probably up there.
For the whole tournament.
Yeah. Which hole did we consistently play the worst?
Yeah, the 13th.
13th or 14th, we also consistently play badly. So Sean, your stroke hole again, and I think you blew out on that hole. But because I remember what we were saying is that all we need to do is you need to make a solid par.
And that would wrap it up, yeah. So we went 6-1, 7-1, and they went 6-1, 6-1. So we halved the hole.
Yeah. And then we started. Luckily, we had a cushion because then we started unraveling quickly. So just run us through what happened up until 18.
Yeah. So on 14, Laurie got a birdie. No, sorry, a par 3 for 2. We were nowhere on that hole, so he took that hole. Then Red, out of nowhere, he finally came to the party on the 15th, birdied that hole for a 3 for 4, and just like that, we went from 3 up to 1 up. And back to our doomsday predictions of going into the last 2 holes with 1 up was a little bit dangerous.
But also momentum's a huge thing, Sean. I mean, you can feel the momentum start to shift, and you're like, oh, flip.
True, just looking at these again, I mean, Jock, you played the 17 amazingly well. Like, if I look at this now, in all the matches, you've basically parred that hole for 3 pointers, stroke 1. Yeah. Under massive pressure. So, I mean, that in a sense is a big defining point in our whole tournament.
Which was the time that you played the 17th? You had like an 80-meter shot in, and you were like, I must hit my like 160, 70-meter shot into the... no, how did it work? But there was one where you were like, okay, no, I must just go for it or something. And I was like, you go for it and I'll decide whether I need to lay up or not. I can't remember, but Sean, I've never seen you like hit a worse shot. I think the worst shot of the tournament I remember on 17.
It must have been 17. I mean, I've had a tin cup moment on that hole in club champs before where I hit 6 or 7 in a row into the water. So it's got a big mental scar for me. Like, there's just something about that second shot which I lock up and just start thinking too much about golf and how to hit the ball, and
you think swing and not you think swing and not shot.
So I'm pretty much generally out of that hole. Like, in fact, I actually drive that hole well. If I think about it, I'm generally over those bunkers in the middle of the fairway, if not at the bottom, but I just cannot get across the water. But JDV pulled it through there again. We halved the hole, went into the last hole 1-up again. And
luckily so, because that didn't
but
Red
Jacques,
make
so Jacques parted again for a 3-pointer, and Red birdied it 4 for 4.
So if I recall that, I had a very makeable putt for the birdie. I think I had like a 7-footer. It was that yellow right flag, and I think I missed the birdie, and Red made like a bomb, like 12-footer for the birdie.
Yep.
And I think he had made his birdie already, and I had a putt to sort of win it with the birdie. Look, I wouldn't say I choked it, because it wasn't like a tap-in birdie.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty difficult putt. But yeah, Red BMT of note, I think, to make a birdie on that hole, which took us to 19. So it's for Laurie, who didn't want to play. He was like, look, if it's done on 15, I'm not playing 18. He's like, I'm going home. So for a man who didn't even want to play 15 holes, he was on to the 19th. And again, this was one where, Shauna, you had a pretty good shot. I hit a shot, and it just carried on running, and it actually landed it sort of went into the rough on the face of the bunker.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was one of those ones where I was standing in the bunker with my hands on the metal of the club, trying to sort of like baseball shot out, which I managed to do, and left myself probably about 170 meter shot in.
I'm sure I can remember Laurie or Red commenting on Jacques' shot. It was such a bad lie that when he went down to play it, one of them mentioned like, okay, that's Jacques out of the hole, because everybody else was kind of primed down the center of the fairway. Needless to say, like for me, what came out of that is by far, well, for me, the defining moment of the tournament, and definitely the best shot of our tournament by a long way. Was Jacques. Jacques obviously came out with a really good shot. What you probably had about 120 meters off the face of that, but leaving 200 meters, a 200 meter shot into the green, and the pin was top right.
So, and it was rain and wind into us.
Yeah.
No, look, I don't think it was 200 meters. I think it was about 170, 180 meters, but wind into us. Look, I've said the hybrids. You remember, there's a podcast where I've said to Terence, I've insured those things by name, and then had to take them off the insurance because my excess was more than the clubs are worth. But special place in my heart. Smoked a hybrid with a draw into the wind, top right flag, and probably landed at 8 foot, 9 foot from the pin.
Yeah, it was such a quality shot. I mean, the pressure at that stage. I mean, you can just imagine that we were wet dogs basically walking down that fairway,
and we had blown a 3-shot lead.
Yeah, we'd come with a 3-shot lead. So, I mean, mentally we were struggling, and JDV pulled out such a great shot. It's such a good shape, such good length, and I mean, you put it 6 feet from the pin, and for me that was the turning point. Like at that moment, I just knew, like, done, we were going to win.
So yeah, look, I think Red it changed the context of his shot. He had a pretty easy pitch, like I'd say probably 100 meters, 120 meters. He left it on the bottom tier, and then 3-putted from there. Like, really wasn't good. I feel like that probably should have been a 2-putt for him. It did change my putt a bit. I was like, there's no way I'm going for this birdie. I very much tickled that thing all the way to the hole, and we got the concession for the win. But that was, I think, Sean, for me, probably my most enjoyable match that we played, just from like a competitive point of view, like really playing in shit weather, like grinding.
Yeah. And I mean, a close match at the end of the day. I mean, if you just look at points wise, JDB 33, me 29, Laurie was 32, and Red was 29. So
in those conditions, that's actually pretty decent golf by all of us. Okay, let's push through onto the semis.
Yeah, so on to the semis.
This was one where I also think we got ahead of ourselves prematurely.
And this was Brendan and Pat, eh?
Yeah, so Brendan and Pat, but we got into ourselves prematurely, or got ahead of ourselves prematurely, and so we've got a boys group, myself, Sean, and my dad, and Sean and I are always sort of messaging and sort of pulling apart the thoughts of what we're going to do. And I was like, I think this is one that we primed to win. 2 low handicappers. Sean and I are going to feast with our 3-pointers. They're going to battle to get 3-pointers. And maybe controversial moment number 2 or 3 of the tournament was holotining had just happened. And look, genuinely, if shout out Brendan and Pat if you're listening to this. I don't know if they do. I don't know, but we didn't actually try and make the weekend on the weekend we wanted it. We actually put out weekends at the end of that month of holotining that they couldn't make, and likewise some of the ones that they could make we couldn't make. Which ended up that we played the week after, or like literally that Saturday. The course opened on the Thursday, and we played the Saturday of spring treatment.
Yeah.
Needless to say, we also then pulled that one apart in terms of who does this favour, etc. And I think we netted out on probably favours us.
Yes.
We don't putt it as pure as Brendan, who's like a +2, I think, a +1 or a +2, and Pat, who's also a very solid. I think a 3, yeah? I
think, maybe a 1, 2 or 3, somewhere around there.
So I think that prediction came true. I think Brendan and Pat really, I don't want to say struggled on the green, but I think a lot of putts that ordinarily would have gone in didn't go in.
Okay, so I mean, it just takes the finesse out of putting. I think it was pretty much like putting at Princess Grant.
But that Princess Grant's not that bad. But that being said, Sean, you also played your round of I think your best round that you've played at Cotswold. So to put it in perspective, Sean, you were playing off I think a 15 at the time.
Yep.
And when we were standing on, what did we go into halfway?
We were, so for some reason we didn't put the scores on this sheet.
Okay, well anyway, I remember
we must have been 2 up, somewhere around 2 up.
I remember when we were sitting on 12, I think you were 1 or 2 over par at that stage, off like a 15 handicapper.
Yeah.
I wasn't playing badly, Sean, but I was like playing second fiddle. I was like, look, I'm here to enjoy the show, and probably capped off by what was a good way to say.
I mean, on the front line, I shot 35 for 24 points.
24 points individual. I mean, you were unplayable that day.
And then I went 3, 2, 2, 4, 2, 2 over the next holes, and then then the wheels came off. But at that stage, we'd wrapped up the game.
No, but the moment was so Sean gets to the 13th, which we've historically played atrociously. I remember you pushed your shot right, and I was like, we could have ended it here. Anyway, Sean takes his putter out and from off the green, like smacks it up the hole, up the ridge into the hole for a birdie.
Yeah,
and that was it. All she wrote. I think you at that stage, like honestly, 1 or 2 over par.
Yeah.
Off like what you were playing, like a 14 handicap.
Yeah. I think Brendan saw the humor in it by then, like just realizing that I was unplayable that day. Like I felt bad about it. Like Jacques kept saying to me, "Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about it." I'm like, nah, I feel bad. Like people are gonna think I'm a ringer. But honestly, the best round I've had at Cotswold. One of those days where everything clicked. It was a great round. I mean, I could have been better. I shot a 79, and literally the last 3 holes I rung out 3 in a row.
Yeah, which also didn't do much for this ringer. This ringer vibe that you were giving.
It's classic.
Which, sorry, what did we win? 5 and 4. Okay, I'm just going to triple the last couple of holes to protect the handicap.
We went 6 and 5.
Shout out the cheating pod if you want to give that one a listen. Okay, anyway, so we into the semis. I felt in the clubhouse there were a lot of oaks that were surprised.
So that was the semis, eh?
Yeah, so through the semis. But I think the vibe that I got, Sean, was a lot of the guys in the clubhouse didn't think we'd win, and certainly didn't think we'd win sort of 6 and 5.
Yeah.
Everyone seemed a little bit surprised by that result. And I think everyone was surprised by the results on the other side of the draw, which we haven't really mentioned. John Mark and Fuad got knocked out by Andrew and his partner Mark, who have been in the finals and have won it many times. I think they said they pissed away their lead there as well.
Yeah.
I think Fuad 4 putted on the par 3
Yeah.
to lose it. Shout out Fuad, don't worry, 3 years experience.
I think the ones that, if I recall correctly, that was Clive and Sinet. When we came off that match,
Yeah.
there was a lot of like talk in the pub around that was unforeseen, that the guys thought that they were going to beat us comfortably, and we still managed to come through that one. And maybe at that point in time, when we beat Clive and Sinet, we felt like, okay,
Yeah.
we had to win, and maybe everybody else started to think, okay, the De Villiers brothers are here to win.
So, anyway, let's not. Says Sean taking a swig of his beer humbly. So I think on the other side of the draw, Fuad and John Mark got knocked out, which I think in the quarters, which we were a little bit relieved about. But at the same time, they did get knocked out by Mark and Andrew, had been in the finals and had won it a lot of times. We thought, okay, well, we won the semis. We're going to be playing Mark and Andrew.
Yep.
So put it back a couple of seconds. The semi-finals, Clive and Clint won a coin flip.
Darren and Clint.
Darren and Clint won a coin
Against
flip.
Mark Sklanders and Andrew Wood.
No, they didn't win that coin flip. They won
Wasn't it? Was it before that?
Yeah, it was in the
It was
in the quarters.
Alan and Nico Maharaj.
Yeah, so they won that one to get through to the... Look, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not like saying that that's a bad thing. That's what it was. And then we were like, okay, well, we're playing Andrew and Mark in the finals. I mean, I think both of us had sort of just assumed that is what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And anyway, Clint and Clive... No, man. I'm getting this wrong again.
Clint and Darren.
Clint and Darren smoked Andrew and Mark. Also, I think
they did 6 and 4.
6 and 4. So yeah, I mean they beat them worse than we. We went 6 and 5.
6 and 5.
Okay, so we were both coming into the final having like dominated our semi-finals.
But they dominated. I mean, if you look at our matches that we'd either won on the 18th or one on the first playoff hole, where Clint and Darren, I mean, looking at their scores, they got a bye, then they won 4 and 3 in the second round, then they won 6 and 5, then they got a coin toss, and then they won 6 and 4. So they'd smashed their opponents the whole way through,
But
and played 2 less
I
games
was
than we had
about to
played
say,
up
but
at that point.
this is my thing. I feel like having played more games, we were sort of more invested. I don't know if that makes any sense, or am I reading too much into it?
I think obviously, it's a long tournament, 6 months to get, if you play from the first round through to the finals. And in match play to win each one, I mean, mentally you are getting tougher. I mean, you're getting to know your opponent. All of ours were tough.
But not only our opponent, we're getting to know each other. I mean,
you're getting to know each other.
Yeah.
You're working under pressure. Like, I think it worked in our favor, definitely. Having played 5 games before that, 5 close games, barring Brennan and Pat. Definitely worked in our favor, having tough games and playing and not getting bars. So yeah, I think going forward, like I'd dig to play the first round and not to get a bar.
So a couple of things that the finals unlocked. There were two possibilities, or one definite and then one possibility. When my son George was born, Sean gave me a really, really nice bottle of wine. What is it? Anthony Rupert. If it comes in a box that's got magnets on, then you know it's good shit. So Sean gave me a really nice bottle of wine, and I'd said, look, if we win the Cotswold Betterball Knockout, and I said this before we'd even played this one in particular, then we'll open this bottle of wine, fully expecting that I would die without having tasted that wine. The other thing Dad said, I think probably as a throwaway line, but we held him to it, was if we get into the finals, he would fly up from Knysna to come and watch. So both of these were now in play. I got hold of Dad and he made a plan. Interestingly, an interesting exchange that we had with Clint, and I think I'd like to hear your thoughts. I understand what Clint is saying. So he was saying, look, happy that Dad comes and drives around, but like didn't want him to caddy for us.
Yeah.
Which was like give us lines and yardages and the rest of it. Like I don't think Clint had met Dad and didn't know your relationship with Dad and golf.
Yeah.
Which was, I was like, Thanks, Clint. That like gives us a bulletproof excuse for Dad not to like tell Sean lines and be peak with it. Like I was like, this is great. Like this is exactly what we need. But it definitely made that final. Did you feel like we were under a little bit more pressure that Dad was there, or?
Yeah, I think so. Having the old man there to watch the golf, or at least the second nine, because I think that was, let's say, a little bit of internal controversy.
Controversy number 4.
Yeah, I mean, the old man flew up just to watch this golf match, and then decided to go buy himself a new car, and then for whatever reason, the deal had to be done on the Saturday morning at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, come high water, that's when the sale was going to happen. And he couldn't watch our front nine. So we really like, this is unbelievable. Like, Dad's flown up to literally come and watch us. And now he's going to stay at home, which he did. He stayed at home and then bought his car on the front nine. But I think probably like a little probably a good thing. Like, I think, in a sense of just not having the pressure there. If I look at my scorecard, like there's definitely like a subliminal messaging there or something going on in the back of my mind, because I started off freaking strong actually, even looking at the scorecard. Jacques, I went 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 2 points. And then Dad came and started watching, and then I went 1 point, 2 points, and it kind of went on from there. And Jacques, from that point, like I'd like anchored early, but then from there, Jacques basically took the match to a whole new level.
Yeah, look, I think with Dad it was hilarious that Dad had organised that deal. It was like, I'm here in Natal, but I'm going to hang back and catch you on the back nine. Or sorry, on the when I can on the front nine. What Dad did really well is he was super like unintrusive, and I mean, obviously, there's different guys. Guys want like Dad, like your dad, or someone talking in your ear and being like, "You're playing really well," or whatever. I think both of us were like, "Look, Dad, like only positive feedback, like no negative feedback whatsoever."
I think we'd spoken so much to Dad that he was actually really scared to come even anywhere near us on the golf course, because generally speaking, he stayed off the fairway and just kind of clapped from the side.
Chatting to him, he said he treated it like when he went and watched like a Nedbank, where he would like watch the tee shots and then essentially drive to the green and then watch our approaches into the green. So he had like a really good vantage point at the green where we were, and it was also pretty epic. A lot of the blind greens and tee shots that we were playing, like watching his reaction, whether he like did a thumbs up or a clap or whatever it was. But I'm glad Dad didn't give you any lines or advice, Sean, because I really think that could have thrown you off. But anyway, so it was really special having Dad there with us, and obviously now playing the finals.
Yeah, let me just say, like, and shot to the old man for coming up and supporting us in the final. Like, for him, like coming out of his way, it was really lekker. So from both of us, like,
we did also push the boat out a bit far on Friday night. Much as we said we wouldn't do it, I think we were sitting at Grimaldi's talking about my affinity to doing home like drilling holes and the rest of it, and Dad was like, people who do maintenance and don't drill their own holes must just like, it's the most ridiculous thing. And I was like, Dad, I hate doing that stuff myself, so I will get a handyman every day of the week to put up a painting. But anyway, we had lots of bottles of wine the night before, which I think also helped just relax us. Not to belabor the point, Sean, look, I played probably one of the best rounds I've played at Cotswold. Genuinely, I think I was just so focused on every shot. I didn't really give a shit what my score was. I was just so focused on hitting the best possible shot every time I hit a shot. And I think, again, going back to the original discussion we had about match play versus stroke play, medal and the rest of it, I didn't need to worry about what my score was. And I genuinely did not worry about what my score was. I was just worried about, how do I make the best possible score on this hole? How do I make the best possible score on the next hole? So yeah, I ended up shooting, I think, a 76, which
I think, did you not? You also finished maybe with like a double or something. Like, I finished with a birdie. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I birdied 18, but by that stage, I think, what was the final score? We had won
So we won. I think the score's not on this final.
Okay, so
one,
let's
Jockey, but
just
it was-
get. No. Well, we can get to the
So
final
not
hole.
3 and 2 or
So
something
because
like
there
that.
was a controversy number 5 of the tournament was the final hole that we played was the par 3 16th. We were 3 up at that stage. Is that right?
Yeah.
And Sean, I'd pushed mine right, which, as anyone knows, and it was,
And there was quite a bit of headwind that day, if I remember correctly.
Yes, there was quite a lot of wind that day, and it was a yellow flag on the right. So I'd pushed mine right. So it's a very sort of difficult shot out of thick rough. Sean, you'd almost like hold your. You'd almost hold
the best
your.
shot I
your
had all
tee shot.
day.
So I would say that's a close second for me for the shot of the tournament between us. But anyway, I then had absolute free ability, knowing that Sean had like a very makeable birdie putt to like flop shot it onto the green. So I flop shotted, managed to get it right, and I was about 4 foot away. Anyway, both Darren and Clint lipped out, hey, from about 40 foot away.
Well, he was like just on the fringe of the green. It's all at the almost at least 40 foot.
Yeah, so Clint like lipped out from like 40 foot. That left me with like a 4-footer. I said to Sean, let me let you have a free shot at the birdie. Can I just finish off? Also knowing in my own mind that this was for the whole tournament.
No, Jacques lying now because he actually said to me straight. He came up to take the putt, and it was legitimately my putt. And Jacques came up and was like, no, Sean, I want to have this putt because I want to win the tournament. 100% Jacques.
Well, luckily, I did make that putt.
He did?
You did a proper horseshoe with your birdie.
I missed my birdie putt.
Horseshoe with your birdie, and that was all she wrote. The Cotswold Betterball was done and dusted. There was a lot of momentum. We were 4 up, going into the back 9 there. The guys came back hard, Clint and Darren, but we were all just playing flipping solid golf.
I think Darren battled a bit that day.
Yes.
Clint played amazing golf, and I gathered between the conversations between Clint and Darren that Darren wasn't having his best day out.
Yeah, look, Clint wasn't making that any secret. All right, Shauno, just a couple of further things before we call it. Hole we played the best.
Sure. I'd say the first hole.
I was going to say it's an easy answer. The first hole we really played it well when we played it as playoff holes.
Yeah.
I feel like we always made a par. One of us always made a par in the first hole. That first hole was like, I think, always a 3-pointer for us. We could pretty much mark it on the card.
So the first hole, then I'll definitely say for you played the 17th stroke one really well.
Thanks, Sean. I will tell you that your worst hole was definitely your birthday hole, which was the par 5.
Yeah, no, and it still is to this day.
But that being said, I think the par 3 7th, you played particularly well every single time, which is good because I play that hole atrociously every time. So I think other than that, the hole we played the worst, I think we agreed was 14, the par 3 14th.
Those 2 holes, we actually had spoken a lot about it, saying that those were actually strategically quite important holes for us, 13 and 14, and it was the 2 that we played the worst.
Well, let me put it this way. When we played Clint and Darren, you took an iron off that box because it was, again, one that we were like earmarking that you were going to make a par. You were the only person who stroked the hole. And anyway, you took your iron. I think we were teeing off second. They had begun their comeback there. And you shanked it. Dead right, OB, it didn't sniff the fairway. Yeah. And I remember looking at Clint and Darren, and they were like sparkle in their eyes. They were like, here we go. And
that is classic.
Again, I'd got the bit between my teeth then, and I was like, stuff these oaks. They don't know that I'm also playing this hole. And I managed to I hit the flag, remember?
Did you halve it or did you win it?
I won it with a birdie. But remember, I hit the flag for an eagle. It lipped out for an eagle pitch-in.
Yeah. You played that hole actually pretty well, actually, Jacques, I'd say.
I don't know.
13th.
Anyway, so, Shauno, any sort of parting thoughts here? chances for next year. Hopefully we get a bye in the first round now. Do you want to bye in the first round?
No, I think I dig playing with you, and I dig the tournament. Like, it's the more golf we play, the better. So whether we get a bye or not, I prefer not to get a bye just because we play more golf. Yeah, it'd be nice to get a board up in Cotswold. Maybe a little bit of a discussion point around the honours board for the Betterball Matchplay and where that goes. We didn't want to be the two, when we won, then we come and ask for why is their board not up. But sounds like maybe there is something going to go up.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think it does make next year, or this year, I suppose, 2025 interesting. Certainly there's a target on our back, I can feel. And rightly so. I mean, you play the other Oaks that have been in the finals or have won it, and you stuff these Oaks. We want to beat them.
Yeah.
I do feel like you and I have come a long way as Betterball partners. This has now become a therapy session. So everyone, just take your time. You can pause. You can fast forward this bit.
No, 100%.
But STV, it was a bloody lekker thing to have done and to have achieved, and we did open that Anthony Rupert, pulled the magnets open.
We did. It was
cracked
fantastic.
That bottle of wine. Delicious bottle of wine, and the three of us, you, me, and Dad, enjoyed it. I think that day we had it that evening, and what a lekker experience.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a shout out to Cotswold and to Brian. I mean, in general, the course is in fantastic condition. It's a great course, and all the people we played in the tournament, really great gears in all of the matches. Couldn't have asked for actually a more fun tournament.
It was fun, and there was honestly, they were all competitive, but in the best spirits of the word. Last controversial thing, the 9th played for the whole tournament.
Yeah,
I think for
that
us,
helped in our favour,
as
definitely.
a par 3.
100%.
So it was stroke 8, par 3, and essentially if you hit the green playing low handicappers, it was like my birthday hole in a lot of them.
Yeah. No, that was a big positive thing. Eh?
So maybe a little bit of an asterisk next to our win, but we'll tell them when they put the honours board up, they can put an asterisk next to our name and say played the 9th as a temporary hole. Like STV, I really enjoyed doing this with you.
Yeah, this was awesome, man.
This was good fun, and I'm glad I got to schlep on the
West Fletcher number 12.
Yeah, it's very. I can taste the religion of the monks in this in this beer, all 11% of it. But yeah, gents, thanks very much, Shauno.
And thanks for having me on your pod, man. It's been lekker.
Hopefully we have you again.